details, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made in first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Will the local arts community be able to rebound after COVID-19? The state will give out $1.3 million to the area's arts and cultural organizations. The funds will be used to preserve the venues hit the hardest by COVID-19. The venues that will receive funds for improvements are Stanbaugh Auditorium, the Warren Community Amphitheater, Packard Music Hall, the Butler Institute of American Art, the Oh Wow Center, which is the Rogers and Gloria Jones Children's Center for Science and Technology also. Now, the article did not mention the state that many smaller venues are in, but is critical in keeping the public informed about the havoc brought on by COVID-19 within the local arts community. Let's hope that people do not leave out the smaller venues as well. They play a big part in the local entertainment culture and world, or section, however you want to word that. Story number 2, Ohio and the Second Amendment sanctuary. Mike Loychek, Republican of Bezetta, has apparently introduced a bill which, according to a local article, ensures responsible gun ownership and use. It is clear that Loychek feels that legislation will be a start to control Ohio's massive gun problems while also upholding the Second Amendment. So far, only Alaska, Idaho, Kansas, and Wyoming have adopted Second Amendment sanctuary policies. The article fails to highlight any data on if the legislation has been effective, but does bring to the forefront this critical issue. The article also points out that Loychek is attempting to propose legislation that will make federal laws or authority that attempts to infringe on the Second Amendment rights invalid, according to the local Vindicator article that was also mentioned. Now, this is also, which is also stating that the article also states that his main intention is to protect Ohioans' Second Amendment rights. So in all this dialogue and verbiage that inside this article, his main goal is just to protect Ohioans' Second Amendment right by proposing what they call safer and more responsible gun laws. So keep an eye on story number 2, Ohio and Second Amendment sanctuary. Big headline. Story number 3, how important were the subsidies to First Energy? Now, after the state fell victim to a corruption probe involving HB6, one local article reports that Attorney General Dave Yost says he's reached an agreement with First Energy Corporation. Now, on what he's reached an agreement on what the article calls a tainted energy bill. The talk surrounding the story is the fact that First Energy was receiving taxpayer money, which guaranteed that the company could stay afloat. The story made national headlines after an ongoing investigation into Larry Householder revealed some shady deals. The suspected bribery scheme is reported to be about $60 million. The subsidies that they were given ongoing would have reportedly guaranteed an annual profit for the company in the amount of $978 million a year, according to a local article. Yost says that the new plan to stop the subsidies will save Ohio customers $2 billion. So that's why story number 3 made it in this week. Big headline. Big developing news story. Story number 4, are local officials being paid too little or too much? Two stories highlighting local pay issues has been stirring up discussions. One involves Sarah Brown Clark's decision to give 44.3% pay raises to her employees, which she argues that she was entitled to do under a 1984 court ruling. Now, what caused the red flag is the fact that Youngstown has been consolidating to meet budget goals to combat COVID-19 shortfalls. She also officials said that employees were forced to do more with less. Now, this story is still developing, but keep an eye. There's another story number 2, inside of story number 4. Now, there have also been ongoing discussions about pay raises for law and finance directors in Youngstown that have been trending in the news. There appears to be mixed feelings about the pay raises, in which Mayor Jamel Tito Brown seems to be in favor of. He is calling for a 15% raise for the finance director and a 3% raise for the law director. It was more, but somehow it ended up with these numbers. So keep an eye on this story. It is still developing. Story number 5. Local unemployment is still a concern. Last year, Trumbull and Mahoning County's jobless rate hit about 10%. Last week's data from the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services also shows that Trumbull County ended 2020 with a rate of 10.6%. That's unemployment, and Mahoning County at 10.2%. Each regional data varies. Now, each of these regional data that's coming out varies, but puts the attention on what needs to improve if the state wants to rebound from COVID-19 when it comes to employment. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6. New claims that governors may have too much power. So new claims. Everyone impacted by COVID-19 due to mandates handed down from the state are now in the fight to get legislation to lessen the authority of governors during a pandemic. Now, at the moment, the push is to limit the power of governors in a handful of states, which includes Ohio. Now, this could become a real issue if business failures keep piling up. The goal at the moment is to get a constitutional amendment to strip governors of emergency powers. Some governors are fighting back, though. Inside the story, they claim that limiting their power to act in an emergency would really be detrimental to their duties to protect the people of their state from harm inside of a pandemic or in any emergency situation. So keep an eye on this story number 6. That's why it almost made it the top 2 this week, trying to limit the power of governors in some states. This story is still developing. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Coming at you. What will it take to help small local businesses? Some businesses have experienced devastating losses in the fight to contain and limit the spread of COVID-19. The government has provided PPP loans, Paycheck Protection loans, and states have been leaking cash to keep businesses afloat that are treading water. The city of Youngstown will be offering a $220,000 grant that businesses can apply for who have been impacted by the shutdowns and the mandates handed down by the state. This story is still developing, even as some businesses have already gone under and many have already filed for bankruptcy. Governor DeWine is suggesting a $1 billion pandemic relief bill to rescue the state's communities and businesses. Keep an eye on story number 7. Big headline. Big developing news story. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made in this week. COVID-19 case numbers are reported to be dropping. The state reported its lowest number of daily cases over the past 21 days. State officials have patiently waited for numbers to start declining, even as the state has been partially open. Now, daily case numbers were up in December, but now seem to be on the downswing. Local analysts will be zooming in on this story because vaccinations in Ohio started on December 14th. So is that a factor? Most analysts will be looking to see if the vaccine is the reason for the decline. Big headline and big developing news stories that made it this week. Well, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it in. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. So don't go anywhere. You're in the media with me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com, method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program.